Most traders think they're failing because they don't know enough about the markets, but in reality it's often because they don't know enough about themselves. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 biggest mental traps that I find most traders falling into which ruin their chances of succeeding in the prop firm space. And most importantly, we're going to be talking about what you can do to stop making those same mistakes. Psychological trap number 1, unmanaged recency bias. Now, for those of you that don't know, recency bias is the natural human tendency for us to put more weight and emphasis on things which happen recently as opposed to what actually happens over time. This is actually a really normal trap to fall into because the human mind is constantly trying to protect you. It's constantly trying to move you away from pain, and it's constantly trying to seek a reward. You see, one thing that most people don't really understand is the human mind is not wired for performance, it's wired for survival. And this is why instinctively trading is such a difficult endeavor for most human beings. Now, in some areas of life, recency bias is not necessarily a bad thing. However, it doesn't just stop there. This often bleeds into our trading. This is often why winning feels incredible, but losses feel so heavy. I'll be honest, I've been through this exact cycle. I've had periods of time where I've won 2 or 3 trades in a row and I felt like an absolute genius. And then I've been through a losing streak and it had me questioning my entire strategy. You see, this is recency bias 101, and if you never learn to zoom out and to see the bigger picture, you're always going to be on this emotional roller coaster. Now, one of the best ways to fix this is the moment you become aware that you're putting weight on recent experiences, your job is to zoom out and go back to your stats. You want to remind yourself of your average win rate. You want to understand what a normal period of drawdown looks like for your strategy. And most importantly, you want to know what to expect over the next 50 to 100 trades, not just the next 1 or 2. You see, the reality is trading is probabilistic. The moment you start treating every trade like an individual scorecard, you're never going to find consistency in the long run. Psychological trap number 2. You don't accept uncertainty. I want to give you a brutal truth that most trading influencers will not tell you. There is no amount of knowledge or analysis that's ever going to guarantee the outcome of the next trade. Now, to some of you, that might sound obvious, but most traders never truly accept this. A lot of people will say they accept this, but then they dissect every trade like there was something that they could have known or could have done to actually avoid it ahead of time. Again, I'll be completely real. I've fallen into this trap on many occasions, especially in my early years in the markets. In my early years of trading, I would constantly sit there at the charts asking myself what I missed, what I could have done better. And this led me to only do one thing, and that was to be inconsistent with my strategy. The truth is, sometimes even the best setups are not going to work. And that's not personal, it's just statistical. You see, the only way you're going to fix this problem is you have to start shifting your relationship with losses. If you always view losses as something that have to be fixed, you're never going to be in the right mindset to actually manage them. This is what leads most people to over-optimize, tweak their strategy, and eventually end up changing it completely, and that's what leads you to be inconsistent. So instead of asking yourself, why did this lose? Simply ask yourself, did I follow my plan? Did this trade actually align with my edge? As long as it did to begin with, then you simply have to accept that sometimes a loss is just a loss, and the best thing you could do is to accept it and move on to the next opportunity. Psychological trap number 3, unrealistic expectations. In my experience, most traders expect too much from the markets and too little from themselves. The truth is, if you haven't done the backtesting, if you don't actively journal, and if you haven't collected enough data to really know your edge, then everything is going to feel personal in this game. One loss is always going to feel like failure, and one win is always going to feel like success. You see, that is really just emotional roulette, and it's a roller coaster that you don't really want to be on. You can't expect consistent results to the markets if you're not approaching it with a consistent mindset to begin with. You see, your expectations have to come from data, not emotions, and this is a trap that most traders are making. You can only fix this by building a base to begin with. You need to have clarity on things which most people often overlook. And this is things like, what does an average losing streak look like for you? What is your average expected win rate over the next 100 trades? Understanding your data and really knowing your edge is how you give your mind permission to actually stay calm in a stressful state. Psychological trap number 4. Nobody has a plan for boredom. In my experience, boredom is one of the most overlooked aspects of trading psychology. I often call it the silent performance killer. Now take it from me, my bread and butter is operating as a swing trader, so if anyone understands boredom, it's me. There have been many occasions where I've been sitting at my charts with nothing to trade, but suddenly my mind is able to create opportunities which don't actually exist in the market. I found this true not just of myself, but of many traders. I see a lot of people that are failing not necessarily because they broke their rules, but because they don't know what to do when there is no setup. I've always found that boredom creates a gap, and gaps tend to get filled. You can only ever fix that if you create a routine that happens off the chart. For some of you, that might be reading a journal. It might be studying your old trades. It might be just walking away and having a break from the markets. One of the most unpopular opinions that I share is that I think most traders would be better if they had hobbies, passions, side hustles, businesses, or even jobs that would keep them busy outside of the markets. In my experience, discipline is not the result of willpower. It's the result of having clarity, and boredom is where that clarity gets tested. So make sure you have that plan ready. Psychological trap number 5. Most traders don't know how to regulate their emotions. One thing you'll often hear me telling my clients is that emotions are not the problem. They're usually an indicator to an underlying problem which needs to be addressed. In my experience, you need 2 types of plans on how to deal with emotions. You need a reactive one and a proactive one. You see, the reactive plans are what most people spend their time on. They're taking the break, taking the time away to breathe, calling up your accountability partner, and just spending some time away trying to detach from the markets to stop feeling the emotions that you're feeling. The proactive plans are the ones that I find most people don't actually put enough emphasis on. This is all about understanding why you're actually feeling the emotion in the first place and understanding the pattern of behavior that actually got you to this position. I had a client I worked with about a year ago that couldn't stop acting on FOMO. Now, when we started to unpack this beneath the surface, what we actually understood is that he had no real expectation of how often a good setup presented in line with his edge. The solution in this case wasn't to walk away, do some breath work and meditation. It was actually to gather data and understand the average expected trades over a period of time. You see, the fix in this instance wasn't to walk away, do some meditation and breath work. It was actually to go back and gather some data to give them a realistic expectation of how often they actually had a setup present. You see, the moment you address the underlying problem and you create the right expectations, the FOMO suddenly disappeared. They no longer felt the urge to jump into the market because they trusted their setup would appear time and time again. This is where most traders fall short. They don't actually tackle the root of the problem. They cover everything above the surface, but this is what leads you to fall into making the same mistakes over and over again. So the next time you experience an emotion, yes, you want to have a reactive plan, but also be ready to dig deeper. Look beneath the surface and ask yourself, why is the emotion actually there? Take some time to ask yourself deeper questions. Spend some time actually reflecting. Put yourself in a position where you learn to regulate emotions and not constantly try and fight them, because that's not a battle that you're going to win. The one thing over a decade in the markets has taught me is that good trading is not the absence of emotion, it's the ability to be able to regulate them. I'll be completely real with you. Mastering your psychology is not easy. It's a difficult endeavor and it's gonna take time. But one of the things that makes this journey infinitely harder is when you don't trust the prop firm that you're working with. That lack of trust creates doubt, and that creeps into your execution and ultimately impacts your performance. If you're ever in a position where you're unsure about whether the firm will pay you, if you don't really know what the conditions are going to be like when you start trading with a firm, or if you don't even know if they have a good reputation, you're setting yourself up for failure before you've even started playing the game. This is why I'll always recommend using a platform like Prop Firm Match. It provides you the most simplistic way to understand which firms actually have a good track record and which one is going to work best for you in the long run. The more you can make your decisions with clarity, the less clouded your mind's going to be, and that's what helps to optimize your performance in the long run. If this video helped you, let me know in the comments. What was your biggest takeaway, and what are you going to be doing next week to stop yourself falling into these psychological traps? And of course, if you want more psychology tips that are tailored specifically to prop firm traders, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.